If you want to stop anger from ruining your relationships, you have to do something that is going to sound a little bit crazy. Instead of fighting your anger, you have to make it your friend. Most of us see anger kind of like a tiger, like something that is going to eat us and devour us if we give it any free rein. Right? We see it as this incredibly powerful, incredibly threatening emotion that is going to cause us harm. When we look at it that way, what we do is we actually give that anger a lot of power to do harm in our lives. Right? That's when we fight it and resist it and it boils over and makes a mess and gets out of our control. So the solution is to stop fighting your anger, to stop viewing it as this monster and learn how to make it your friend. I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. And in the process, I think you're going to understand more why fighting your anger doesn't make it go away. There are two things you need to understand about the part of you that is angry in order to make it your friend. First is that there is always a positive intention behind your anger. The part of you that's getting angry wants something really good for you. Often it wants you to be happy. It wants you to get what you deserve, to be safe and secure. Usually happiness and contentment or safety and security are at the root of our anger. We feel like those things are being taken away from us, our opportunity to be happy, our opportunity to be safe, and we react with anger. Remember that anger is protective. That's how it evolved, is to protect us from a threat. These are threats to the most important things in our lives, our ability to be safe and our ability to be happy and content. So there's always a positive intention to that anger. There's a reason it's there that wants something good for you. There's also almost always a fear behind your anger. And the fear is linked to that positive intention and what the consequences are of not getting it. So if your partner won't open up and talk about their feelings with you, you might feel angry, right? You're trying to have this deep emotional conversation. They don't want to have it. You get angry at them. That's not productive, right? Because it just leads to a big fight. You blow up, then you feel ashamed. And obviously none of this helped you talk things out with your partner. But let's explore that anger. What's the positive intention? What does that anger want for you? It wants you to have a happy, healthy relationship, right? You got angry because you're afraid that's not going to happen. You might even have the fear that your partner doesn't love you, and that's why they won't open up and talk to you. Another example might be if your partner spends money on something without consulting you. Maybe they make some big purchase or buy a car or plan a vacation without telling you about it, right? And you get angry. Very logical. Lots of people will get angry. Right, so what is the positive intention behind that anger? And what is the fear? In that case, the fear is probably about security, right? About financial security. You're afraid of not having enough money. Or again, you're afraid that your partner didn't consult you, and that means something about the quality of your relationship and your worthiness of being loved. Right? So we tend to think that anger is just this bad, nasty, awful thing. But anger doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's not just coming out of nowhere. You're not feeling angry for no reason. You're feeling angry because there's something really good that you want to give yourself: happiness, security, safety. And there's something that you're afraid you're not going to get: your partner's love, financial security, right? There's this linked fear and positive intention behind the anger. This is why anger doesn't go away when you try to stifle it or fight it. It's down, your anger, think of your anger as like a little kid running up and tugging on your shirt sleeves and being like, oh my gosh, there's this huge threat and you're never going to be happy unless we resolve this. We've got to fight for it. And you're like, no, 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 that's bad. We don't fight. We're not being angry. And you ignore it. If that child, if that person truly believes that there is this incredible threat, this real danger, or something incredibly important that you need to have, they're not going to just go away. They're not going to be like, okay, yeah, you don't want happiness. You don't want to be content. You don't want safety and security. Right? That emotion's not just going to go away. It's going to get louder and louder, trying to get your attention until you do something about it. So that's why it doesn't work to stifle anger. Instead, you have to befriend it. You have to honor the positive intention and get to the root of that fear so you can soothe it. That is the real way to disarm and dismantle your anger. So I want you to think about your anger and the part of you that's angry, like as though it was a new lover or a best friend that you just met, and you cannot wait to get to know this part. You cannot wait to get to know this person. Treat your anger like this. How would you be? Imagine how you are in a new relationship when you've just met somebody and everything is so exciting, but you know so little about them. You ask them so many questions, right? That's how you make a friend. That's how you create a relationship. You get to know the other person. That's what I want you to do with your anger. Most of us spend so much time pushing our anger away, ignoring it, being ashamed of it, and trying to pretend that it doesn't even exist at all. We don't actually know anything about it. So I want you to try to cultivate some curiosity. What does this angry part of you want for you? What is it afraid of? Where did it come from? Right? What annoys it? What makes it happy? Treat it like another person, this part of you that you don't know at all, and get to know it. As you do this, a fascinating question to ask this part is, how old is it? Most of us, the more people I work with, when we talk about anger, I find that most of our angry parts are young, like little kid young, like 5, 6, 7 years old. This isn't true for everyone, but I think the reason so many of us have this angry part that seems like it's a really youthful, childish part is because at that age, that was the last time we allowed ourselves to be angry. Right in there, that 5, 6, 7 is when we learn that it's not okay to be angry, that those emotions aren't acceptable, and we start to stifle that anger. Right? We stop processing it, we stop allowing it because we were taught that it's not okay. I think most of us with our anger emotional intelligence are stuck in that 5, 6, 7-year-old age, which means that that angry part never got to grow up and learn how to process anger in a grown-up adult manner. So when it does come out, when we do blow up, we act like a 5 or 6-year-old child, right? We throw tantrums, we yell, we scream, we freak out, right? Because we've been fighting it for so long. It's like there's a part of us that just got stuck. Our emotional anger intelligence part never got to grow up. We didn't let it because we've been fighting it for our whole lives ever since we learned it wasn't an acceptable emotion. So that part of you needs to be heard. It needs to be understood and explored. And we need to find out, right? It's not a bad part. It's not a shameful part. It's just a part of you that wants something really good for you. And it's afraid of some things that might happen to you. Once you release some of that shame and self-judgment and open yourself up to get curious and explore and understand where your anger is coming from and what it wants, you can use that newfound relationship you have with yourself, that new level of self-compassion and understanding, to do a couple of things, right? You want to grow up this angry part of you. You don't want it to stay at this age where it only knows how to deal with anger by venting and screaming and yelling. One thing you can do once you get to know it is brainstorm ways to process anger effectively. There are a lot of tools for doing this. You may have tried some of them through various anger management techniques. If you have, the reason those tools haven't worked for you is because you haven't accepted the anger, right? Before we can brainstorm ways to process our anger more effectively, we have to understand the positive intent and the fears that that anger is founded in. Because otherwise, processing anger is just another tool to make it go away, right? It's just another way we try to stop being angry. We've got to do the understanding work first. Once you do that, then you can look for ways, okay, how do I deal with anger in a healthy way? For a lot of people, a great way to deal with anger is to get in touch with its physical nature. As you get in touch with the physical nature of your anger, you may start to notice that it's just a bunch of somewhat uncomfortable physical sensations and that you don't have to do anything about them. It's not dangerous, it's not threatening. It's heat in parts of your body, it's an increased heart rate, it's tension in your muscles. Are those physical sensations something that you're okay with, that you can handle, right? And for some people, they do need to find a physical outlet for some of that tension, for some of that adrenaline, for some of that anger. That's also effective to a point, right? You can hit a punching bag, you can go for a run, you can blow off steam. But again, if you don't do the self-inquiry, the inner work, there's going to be a really limited effectiveness to any kind of physical outlet for anger. I want to leave you with this idea. Instead of fighting your anger, choose to honor your positive intentions, soothe your fears, and treat yourself with compassion, even your angry self, especially your angry self. Once you do that, once you embrace that self-compassion and release the shame and release the self-judgment, suddenly processing your anger, applying traditional anger management tools, all of that will come really easily and naturally, and you'll find that you can manage your anger in healthy ways. But those techniques don't work. Those tools to process anger do not work if you don't do the self-inquiry first, if you don't get curious and compassionate about what's behind that anger. As long as your only goal is making anger go away, you are going to fight and struggle with it. You've got to honor and explore and have curiosity and compassion for your underlying desires and fears that are driving that anger. Then you can find productive ways to manage it, and they'll actually stick. This process of self inquiry can be a daunting task. The bulk of the work that I do with my clients is helping them create and hold the space to be curious and compassionate with themselves as they do this deep work of self inquiry. I guide them in that process. And then once they've done that work, I help show them how they can really systematically change the way they're thinking and the way they're feeling to really start to release anger and start creating intentionally instead the kind of relationships, both with themselves and with other people, that they really want. But before you can do that creation work, before you can do that intention work, you've got to do the inner acceptance, compassion, loving work. And that can be the hardest part. So if that's something you want help with, please use the link below and book a call with me. I would be happy to do a free strategy session with you and see how I can help you on this journey of self-inquiry, self-compassion, releasing shame and judgment, processing anger, and saving your relationships. All right, guys, thank you so much for being here, and I will see you again in a couple days.